Hi, this is Dr. Michelle Robin with Small Changes, Big Shifts, Building Rhythm and Resilience. And I believe if you'll change one thing a month, one thing for the next 12 months, you'll change your life forever. Thanks for joining me on the journey. Well, it's so fun. Well, some of you who are on our email list, you got that this is not Dr. Daryl, this is Alex. And we had a little scheduling snafu, but hey, we're live today and I've got a phenomenal guest for you today and perfect timing. Alex is a licensed Reiki master teacher, mindful leadership coach, and owner. How do you say it, Villalobos? How do you say that?
Villalobos.
Villalobos. Vitality. Which she believes that everyone's innermost self should be cherished and nurtured. And boy, do we need to be nurtured and cherished right now. For the majority of Alex's career, she has dealt with relationships, which is what has permitted her to be successful in whatever role she's playing. During her career, Alex has helped corporations and their executives lead from a place of oneness and empathy, seemingly weaving spiritual work into the corporate sector. Whoa. We needed that before COVID, and now we're little c COVID. I've been writing the word COVID a few times today, and I refuse to give it a big C. I'm giving it a little c COVID. Alex, I so love that you are a light wherever you go. You're bringing good energy. So today, Tribe, you're going to have an opportunity to learn from Alex, who's really rooted into flowing through life cycles, and we're in a big life cycle. So Alex, welcome to Small Changes, Big Shifts.
Thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be here.
And in full transparency to our guest today, listening live, you said yes to me about 45 minutes ago, and I don't know why you had to take off your KU hat, but you did. So you took off your KU hat.
It's still here.
Okay. All right. Rock, talk, Jayhawk. So yes, since you took off your hat, I put on some mascara, which is rare. So hey, welcome to the show today. You know, on this show, we like to celebrate, guide, connect, which provide hope. And I want to celebrate you and the work you're doing. What a journey you've been on.
Right. Yeah, you've been a part of the whole thing.
Well, share with our listeners a little about your journey.
So I first met Dr. Robin about 8 years ago when I myself was looking for help. My body just kind of gave up on me, and I tried everything. I saw so many doctors, definitely tried the Western route first. They couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. They did, allergy testing and nervous system testing. They did all the tests in the world, but I was in about 7 different medications. They just said I have an autoimmune disease and I was prone to eventually get lupus soon. So it was, I was young. I was a, mom of a 3-year-old at that time. And that was just like, wow, I don't want to live my whole life like this. I'm too young to be taking all these medications, and the side effects are just as bad as almost, the main ailment, which was hives. I would break out in hives. My lips would blow up. My face would blow up. My whole back would be covered. And I remember I was introduced to Dr. Robin, and she was the first person that really provided a lot of hope and also had me see things from a holistic point of view, like where I just thought, hey, she's going to come and adjust me and she's going to put me on some kind of diet, right? But at that point I was desperate, so I did not care. Whatever you would have told me to do, I would have done. But you were so open and you're like, no, honey, it's not just that. Like, we need to heal every part of you. And it's the first time that I really learned about the 4 quadrants and really understanding what it takes to be aligned and to be in balance. So that was really the first part of my journey with wellness, is really understanding. And I had to go through that journey myself and look at those 4 quadrants and see where I was lacking and try to balance things out. So that's where we started. And then I was in a regular corporate job in finance. There was always something that called me to do more. I wanted to help people in a different way, in a deeper level. And I've always worked in client relationships, client services division. And I started to notice a lot of the conversations that I was having with my clients were less about paperwork and the business, and it was more about them and kind of that holistic well-being. So that's how I ended up with Villalobos Vitality, which Villalobos is my maiden name. And in Spanish, it means village of the wolf. And in spirituality, the wolf is your teacher. It represents your fears. So like, what are you afraid of? And it's you looking at that wolf and knowing that anything that comes in your face, you have the ability to overcome it, and you already have everything you need within you. So I get to be that person that's kind of like I say the training wheels, because each person is doing their own healing. We just get to guide them back to themselves.
Oh, I love the word guidance, and each person has their own, and I love to give everybody their own doctorate degree. So today, hey, we're live with you, and we're coming to it at a new time, 4:30, kind of mixing it up a little bit, and we'll be going 4:30 for the next few months. For those of you who, I was with one of my friends, Anne, yesterday. She was like, got on my calendar for 12:30 tomorrow. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, we're going at 4:30. So hey, I'd love to see your comments. If you have questions, today's going to be pretty interactive. So I would encourage you to post your comments so that we could answer them. So Alex, actually, I think, Alex, I'm a relationship nerd. You may not know that, and about connections. And if I remember right, I know you're Dr. Irick, but I believe our friend Mary sent you in. Is that right?
Yes, Mary Hornbeck. Yes.
So, hey, Mary, we're giving you a shout out because you have nurtured this, and you never know what's happening in your life that will lead you to what's next. And I don't think, and how old's your son now? How old's little Brandon?
He's 11.
He's 11, so he was 3, so it's been 8 years. Oh, he's got to figure out how. So you never know where your issue is going to lead you to. And so let's think about the 8 years. And I'm going to talk about your journey, and then we're going to talk about our guest journey who are joining us today, because they're going to give us some questions that we can help answer and give them some guidance. So when you look back over the last, actually, I'm going to go 10 years, because when symptoms manifest, they typically have been festering for a while.
Yeah.
It's kind of like seeing a little bit of a zit, right? It's probably been coming on for a minute or two. So talk about, now that you can look back with the vision of 2020 and looking back, tell me, what do you think caused some of those issues? And I'm going to start with the mechanical quadrant first.
Mechanical.
Take it by quadrant, if you don't mind. And by the way, Alex has had zero prep for this interview. Okay.
Yes, off the cuff. So mechanical, I was definitely not making time to move my body in an intentional way. I, at that point, worked at a preschool, so I was busy moving around with kids. But then afterwards, I was so tired that I didn't do anything for myself. So I definitely wasn't moving that energy through me. There was no type of release. So I was just like that teapot that was just boiling and boiling and boiling. So definitely mechanical was not making time for my body.
Mm-hmm. And how about chemical?
Chemical, the same thing. I was not putting the right things in my body. I wasn't eating real food from Mother Earth. It was definitely a lot of fast food, a lot of processed food, a lot of comfort food. And you just think in your mind, like, man, I just had a rough day. Let me go and just eat these Cheetos and these Oreos. But when you start to realize what that's really doing to your body internally, then you start making better choices. So yes, definitely was failing in that quadrant as well.
When we dive into that quadrant, and I would say movement and food, people talk a lot about, this is a $1 billion industry, and people have spent, or $1 trillion, people spend a ton of energy and time on this, and yet we're still getting sicker and sicker. And so I really love when people learn how to listen to their own body and start to dial into that. Okay, so what about energetically? Because people, we talked about energy a few weeks ago with Dr. Stephanie Gray, and we talked about EMFs, which was a great show, by the way. I'd encourage you to go back and listen to that. It came out on the podcast last week. Talk about the energy quadrant, because that's kind of your jam now. What do you think you were missing energetically?
Absolutely. So at that point in time, I didn't set boundaries. I didn't say no. I gave to everyone. So the energy, I was depleted. I was giving from an empty cup, and I was stressed out, and I wasn't asking for help. And I wasn't mindful about the people that I was around. You get so used to these people have been in my life for a very long time, and you don't really dive in to see, like, is this relationship serving me? Is this, is this job serving me? Is this you start to look at everything from energy, and then you start to make those adjustments. So I was not cognizant of any of the quadrants, but my mind told me I was okay. That's the part that's crazy, right? You get into this survival mode, and then your body gets addicted to those stress hormones and those stress chemicals. So then you start creating all of that stress in your life. You start manifesting it because your body is addicted to it, just like it can get addicted to sugar, just like it can get addicted to, drugs.
I'm glad you brought up the word sugar. There's a movie out, and I just forgot the name of it, but Katie Couric narrated it. Fed Up is what's called Fed Up, and Dr. Mark Hyman was in it. I'm a big Mark Hyman fan, and he has the 10-day sugar detox. So if you're in this moment, if you want an action step in this moment and you're struggling, a good thing to do is to start to detox your life. And I love thinking about retoxing. I have to tell you, if we could flip the switch, instead of thinking about detoxing every 20% of the time, what if we planned on, it's my birthday weekend, I'm going to have a cocktail, I'm going to have a sugar cookie. By the way, Emily at our office, I don't know if you've tried Emily's cookies, but she makes the best gluten-free, dairy-free sugar cookies. Oh, they're to die for. But you can't have them every day. That's just going to totally trash your body. So talk to me about the psycho-spiritual quadrant. What was missing there for you?
I didn't have anything really outside of myself. I didn't, psycho-spiritual, you start to feel this connection to life, to whatever it is that but that bigger thing than yourself. So whether it's your soul, whether it's the universe, whether it's God, whatever it is that you believe in, but you believe in something bigger. And I was so caught up in the day to day that I wasn't open to that. So I didn't have the tribe. I didn't have any type of release in that way. So that was also, missing. I wasn't reading. I was just so focused on giving to everyone else that I was empty and I was stressed. And when you give from an empty cup, then you start to give to receive instead of just giving freely. So then when you're giving and giving and then people aren't giving back, then you get mad, and then you set expectations and you have these attachments and you get even more frustrated. So I was just, blinders, frustrated. My body was breaking down, definitely in the victim mentality where like all of this is happening to me and I have no control over it. So yes, that was the beginning.
Ooh, there's a lot to unpack there. You've mentioned twice now about your cup being empty, and one thing that I'm trying to be super mindful of is giving from my overflow. So that is an intention I have, and so you may have heard me talk about the 5-minute journal app. It's a great app that I absolutely love, and that 5-minute journal app, it'll be in the show notes that come out in the podcast. And that app, first of all, I love it because I have to type it, and for those that know me, I have horrible penmanship. But it says, what are you grateful for? And then it says the next question, which I think is the most powerful question to start your day with, is what's going to make today great? What's your intention? And wherever your intention's at is where your attention goes. And if your intention is to be depleted, people always say to me, Michelle, how do you go the hours you go? Like yesterday, I went for a walk with a friend at 6:30 in the morning, our friend Erin. And then I saw patients really from 8 to 6:15, 6:30. And then I met my friend, Dr. Maria, for a walk last night. And that's probably a little much, but people are like, aren't you exhausted? Not really, because I was giving from my overflow, because today's Wednesday. And what I love about my new Wednesdays is it's about me. I took time to get adjusted today. I got acupuncture today. I had breakfast with one of my mentors. And so that's what you got to do, is fill your cup up. So before we go to how do you fill your cup up, I want to give you the question that Marilyn, hi, Marilyn, great to hear from you. Marilyn and I met at Oprah in Colorado because of our friend Chris Wittenberg with Be Good to People. Hi, Marilyn. I love your hat, by the way. I can see it down here on my little computer. So how are your symptoms today? Tell me how by the way, no HIPAA. Only share what you want to share. I'm not asking you from a doctor. I'm asking you from an interview perspective.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No symptoms really. I had a lot of thyroid issues. Those have been gone. All of my tests, have come back normal. There's obviously things we can always grow and learn from, but don't have to be on any medication anymore. I think it's the biggest thing. So I feel like when you start to focus on yourself and you start to work on your health, you are literally healing yourself from the inside out. And you always have that ability to change that. You always, like, that's what I say every day. You have the ability to stop and to change the direction of your life. Don't wait until you're breaking out in hives and as miserable as I was. Maybe, you make that decision earlier in the path, but you can always change. You can always pivot.
Speaking of earlier in the path, you're on the Big Shifts Foundation board, and we've roped you in, and you've done a fabulous job. Your first meeting, we got you involved in this new initiative. I'm gonna let you talk about it, but Big Shifts Foundation is really my why. I think so many people wonder why I do this and why I do that, but the bottom line, it's for the Big Shifts Foundation. How do we make generational change for 5 to 30-year-olds through whole person health? Because part of my story, at the age of 15, I got hurt playing basketball. My mom took me to the hospital. Nothing was broken. Then she took me to the chiropractor. I remember this much about the traditional people think about the chiropractic experience, the kind of the adjustment. What I remember is how they started pouring into my soul. And I happen to know the chiropractic family, John and Carol Lake. And hello, by the way, thanks for everything you've done for me. And they started really, really basically saving my soul. That's really what it was. They kind of went in and started talking to me soul to soul versus roll to roll. And here I am almost 40 years later because of their leadership and their guidance. And so for me, my calling, my purpose is how do we help young people start to embody this lifestyle earlier so we can avoid these autoimmune epidemics, or the autoimmune epidemic, or the anxiety, or the pain, or the diabetes, obesity. You can make the list of it. I was talking to, once again, one of my mentors today, and we were talking about our young people and thinking about if we run into, let's say, 100 people under 30, how many of them really feel good? Alex, I don't know. You're around that population. What percentage do you think? If you're with 10 girlfriends tonight, how many of them would say they feel great and they're thriving?
I mean, it'd be a really low number, because right now a lot of people are struggling. And I feel like in the beginning of your life, no one teaches you how to self-love. I mean, if you have parents that teach you that, that's amazing and that's great. But most people are learned to, like, hustle, work hard, grind to the bone. It's all about what your title is going to be, how much money you're making. Nobody really, for me personally, and it came from being an immigrant, coming from a different country. Like, you have to grind. You're here for a reason. And also a lot of that you put on your shoulders as a kid, where it's like, my parents gave up everything to come here. So that was one of the things that I also realized, through this journey, is I felt like I had to carry so much for my parents. So there's so much that I was doing in my life for my parents instead of for me. And so I wasn't living life for me. And that was a huge aha moment for me, where I had to be like, no, I need to make myself happy. I can't rely on my parents. I can't rely on my husband. I can't rely on anything outside of myself. And once I opened up to that and started focusing on my happiness, then you become that full cup. You radiate that light, and then you change those relationships around you without you physically having to go and, do something.
Mm. It's so powerful. You talk about that burden. Gosh, we could have this conversation goes so many ways, and I'm going to get back to the foundation. We'll get back there. But, when I went to Alex on that, and I hopefully there's not very many topics that are off limit here, but I want to, I remember when we were talking about the DACA and Dreamers, and, what an education you gave me about the fear of that. And so, before we answer that question, pre-COVID, if you're with I got to go back to this question. If you're with 10 girlfriends, pre-COVID, how many of them say they felt awesome?
Where they said it verbally and actually felt it, or felt like they had to say that they were perfect?
You know how you look at right now. When I see you, Alex, you are glowing. And Amy, my friend, hey, Amy says, you're glowing. And you do glow. And it's been so fun to watch this journey with you and you doing what you're doing. But how many of your friends prior to COVID, you're with a lot of movers and shakers? I mean, you're here with some phenomenal people, our friends Chelsea and the gang. How many would you say are glowing and they feel radiant and healthy? What 2 out of 10?
Pre-COVID?
Yeah, pre-COVID.
Probably 50-50.
Okay, so 5 out of 10. And what do you think it is now?
Ooh, now I would say maybe 2.
2 out of 10? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, people are struggling, and we see you. Part of this show's message is to help give you hope. So speaking of hope, let's go to the question before we go back to big shifts. I want to go back to, how did you get through all the time, and what is DACA and what is Dreamers? Kind of educate us a little bit.
So DACA is what they've given. It's kind of the umbrella for children that were brought here from their parents under the age of 18. So because my parents brought me here when I was 5, I had no choice in it. It wasn't something that I decided myself. So I'm covered under DACA to be in the U.S. and I have to renew my work permit every 2 years. It's this process of every 2 years I have to connect with Homeland Security, let them know that I'm here, that I'm, a honorable citizen, and I'm contributing to this country, and just it's a lot of paperwork. But I'm grateful that I'm covered under that, because there's a lot of people that are not. And I think the biggest thing with DACA and with immigration, it's really about judgment and putting ourselves in other people's shoes. Whatever your beliefs are when it comes to immigration, I'm not really here to discuss that. But when you put yourself in someone else's shoes and you have that open heart and that empathy and you see their story, then it allows you to kind of shift and kind of get rid of that judgment. So when I have conversations with people, because maybe they've never been exposed to anyone that's out of this country, maybe they think like, oh, it's as easy as you filling out a form and then you are a US citizen. So when I share my story and when I say, hey, the fact that my parents filed a certain way when I was 5 and that got filed in a weird way and I'm in this gray area. So even though I'm married to a US citizen, I have 2 US citizens kids and I've been here my whole life, because I'm in this really weird gray area, I have to, renew every 2 years. But was so much shame and guilt in that for so many years. Like I remember like just having to fill up paperwork, and the fact that I couldn't like check off citizen like would make me cringe. Or like if people would ask me about it, like I remember people would always be like, where are you from, or where were you born? And there was just like my stomach would just be like, ugh. So I would always be like California, because I didn't want to go into that whole story behind it, because I carried so much shame and guilt. And then when I started kind of in this path, I'm like, what is there? And this just comes from society and stories that I made up, in my own mind from being different, right? Where now I'm like, this is unique. This makes me different. I see things from a different perspective. I speak 2 languages. I write and I read 2 languages. That is something to be proud of. This is not something to be ashamed of. So it allowed me to find my power within those things. And I think that's what we realize in this journey, that our biggest struggles that we have in life, once we face that wolf and face that fear, then it ends up being one of our biggest blessings.
Okay, so open up that can of worms, thinking about this journey, and we think about voice and shame, and we think about dis-ease in the body. And you brought up the word thyroid. I've not disclosed any of your medical history,
No,
by the
it's
way.
me. Yes.
So we think about the head and the heart. The connection is the neck. So there's people with neck pain, but the thyroid sits in that neck area too. And maybe not really having the voice that you needed to have.
Absolutely. I think that was the biggest issue that I had with my thyroid, was because I wasn't honoring my voice, and there was so much shame behind it. And even though my mind was telling me like, yeah, you talk all the time, you're using your voice, it was not the deep things from my heart. And when we really talk about, energy and chakras and being open, it's like if messages come from your heart and you're not speaking that, your voice, you're not utilizing that and putting that out into the world, then it creates this, not here, and it gets stuck. And then we want to be an open channel. We don't want to have any type of abstractions that are blocking this natural flow. So I believe 1,000% that my thyroid issues definitely came from me not using my voice or having that shame to use my voice.
Now, here's a question for our audience listening today, live or even further on, is think about, where are you stuck at? and possibly where you have pain at. I think about when I see people that have a lot of like low back pain. Louise Hay, who's a great mentor of and teacher of whole person health and affirmations, talked about low back pain being anger and resentment. And I remember when I touch people's body, I could scan and feel the energy. And I'm thinking, whoa, there's a lot of anger and resentment here. And then you're right. When people come in and they're expecting a pop and go experience from me, it's a little tough because that I just feel so much energetically in the body. And so I'm glad you've gotten your voice. I have to tell you, you truly do radiate. It's been such an honor to share the journey with you as you are moving through it. I want to go back to Big Shifts Foundation. And I know that you have a heart for kids with cancer. So talk about that, then talk about how you're using that on the other side now, hopefully with more prevention on the Big Shifts Foundation.
Yes. So I'm also involved with the Rock Chalk Round Ball Classic, which is a local charity where we help local families that are fighting pediatric cancer. And so I've always had this passion with kids, and but a lot of the times, someone gets sick and they didn't really have the education or the background about what our body needs. So I noticed that a lot of people were going through chemo and were still not feeding their bodies the right stuff. So that's why this was a perfect overlay shifting to Big Shifts Foundation. And so for me, I obviously have a big passion for helping the underserved communities, helping, minorities, because there's so many stigmas when it comes to wellness there. Like there's a stigma to going, to therapy with, eating different food. There's just, that's a whole, like you said, a whole nother, a whole nother thing to unpack. But I want to be able to help those that are ready and that are asking for that help. And hopefully we'll be able to do that with the new program that we're launching soon.
So I think maybe we should hold it. You think we should talk about our new program or just wait?
Let's wait. Let's have the big reveal. Let's just do a little teaser right now. There's something amazing that's going to happen.
Yeah, we're working pretty hard on it, and it's pretty darn exciting. So if you have questions, now's a great time to ask if you'd like to. So let's talk about some guidance. I want to give some guidance, and I'm going to let you share some guidance. I want you to give us 2 or 3 tips that you would recommend to people if they're stuck. And I think most people are stuck at some level right now. Not everybody, but there's a lot of people stuck right now. And hey, I need you to get unstuck because we've got a big job to do right now. And that is to help shift what's happening in the world on many fronts. But one of the tips, and I'm going to give this tip from my friend, Sonia Choquette, who is an international intuit. And this tip she shared with me years ago, and it's the sound of music. Alex, have you ever hummed the Sound of Music song? Have we ever talked about this tip? So do you have a good voice? I don't have a very good voice. So I mean, we should invite somebody on who has a decent voice. We need to get my friend Bouquet on, but it's where you kind of hum the Sound of Music, and it gets each chakra, and it helps clear it out. So if you want a tip right now of how to move energy throughout your body, hum the Sound of Music. Okay. And if you feel it, you'll feel it in different chakras of your body. So that's my tip today. But let's go back to you since you're the guest today. What are some of the tips you would like to share, some of the guidance?
So I would start off with how we're talking about moving your body. Move your body, try to get that energy to flow through. The other day, I woke up kind of in a funk. And I ended up putting on some Brazilian music and hearing those drums. I could just feel it in my heart, and it made me move my body, and it made me get out of that funk. And also making that decision of like, okay, yes, I woke up like this, but it's like we say, I got up the wrong side of the bed. Like, okay, but are you going to let that ruin your whole day? It's 3:00. Like, let's snap out of it. So move your body. I think drinking lots of water, that's really important. Sleep, the usual. I notice when I'm not getting enough sleep, my brain gets very groggy and I start making, a lot of mistakes. And also that quiet time. I think the quiet stillness time is very, very important. And at first it feels very uncomfortable because your mind is still racing and it doesn't know how to stop. But it's something where if you take that time for stillness, to be open, to go within, that's where I feel you discover a lot of the things. That's where you get a lot of the messages. That's where you can really tap into that deepest part of you, your soul, your divinity, And that's really, really important. And something that you said a while back that really stuck with me was, people think by taking time, especially for women, especially for moms, like you feel selfish for taking time for yourself. And I always say this, it's not selfish, it's self-full. And that's exactly what we're, trying to do is fill those cups. So when you feel like you don't have enough time, that's the perfect time to find that stillness. And it doesn't matter what modality you use, whether it's Reiki, whether it's meditation, whether it's prayer, whether it's yoga, but just something that's going to turn off the monkey brain for a moment and allow you to be present, to have, that time to take those deep breaths and to go within.
So you said, I heard a couple things. You said movement. Okay. Motion is lotion. We talked about that earlier. So move. And, what went to me, what went in my mind when you said, am I going to waste this day when I got up on the wrong side of the bed? Okay. And I went to thinking about the book, 20,000 Days. Have you seen the book, 20,000 Days?
No.
Okay. Well, it's a great book. And I just wrote myself a note to invite the author to be on the show. Alex, it's hard to believe. If I'm lucky enough, I'll hit my 20,000 day here pretty quick. Is that crazy? 20,000 days. And if you think about that, if and somebody gave me a jar of marbles one time, and thinking about taking out a marble every Saturday, and you only have 52 Saturdays a year. Okay, and so you think about, how am I going to spend my Saturdays? But I think about, how am I going to spend my days? I've lived over half my life, and that is hard to think about. So I love that you started with that. So I'm going to have to see if I get that author on for my 20,000 day. So you mentioned being quiet, and I was coaching a client earlier this week, and we were talking about trying to get quiet, and I can't meditate. And I'm going to tell you, I get it. I can barely get through my prayers. I usually can't get through my prayers. By the way, I have to go back because I get distracted because this is a full mind. So what I'll do sometimes, I'll just pick a word or a scene, and it could be, I love hugs, or could be the word love, or the word grace. And I'll just say grace, and I'll focus on the word grace, and I'll breathe and focus on the word grace. And then I'll think about my show today. And then I'll go, oh, well, Michelle, go back to the word grace. And so what are some tools that you've used to quiet your mind?
So I was definitely that person as well, where I couldn't meditate. I would either fall asleep, which means your body is lacking sleep, or my mind would just still be thinking about my to-do list. So something that really helped me is guided meditations, and that's kind of my jam, because it gives your mind something to focus on, and then you're visualizing. And then also, you really have to think of mindfulness. It's kind of like this muscle that we haven't used. So it is very uncomfortable in the beginning, but you got to keep working it out. And so guided meditations were helpful because I can visualize certain things. And what was really beautiful, I was also starting to use my imagination, my intuition, which is, a part of us that we don't get to use enough. And so that was really helpful. And then I started to realize that, like, my breath was another important key. Like, breathing out of my belly instead of my chest, realizing that when you're breathing from your chest, you're actually triggering that fight or flight. You're, dropping more of that cortisol and all of those stress hormones. So just, you start to have like these little things that don't cost any money, don't, take that much time, but you start to implement and weave them into your everyday life, and it makes the biggest difference. Especially breath. I feel like it really anchors you to the present moment. And I think where a lot of that stress comes from is because we're always focused on the future, or we're always stressed about a decision that we made in the past, when it's really about being present and being here.
It's interesting. I have a little sheet here. Let me see if I can get it on the screen. It's my pearl sheet. It's my pearls of what and it's right on my computer, and it's what I'm focusing on through COVID. And so I've got that. And then I have another sheet that talks about well-being equals happy, and give myself permission, to be happy, but my permission to be right here with you right now, and permission to go for a walk when I get off. And it's a gorgeous day in Kansas City. So when we get done, part of my self-care is I'll go for a walk, and then I'll get to take a nice hot Epsom salt soak with my little bath bombs that I love. But I want to share a couple of my pearls. And this, I've added one, and one is just take the next step. And if you're following some of my quotes, it's just, there's so many things to do, and you and I are both on this journey to help as many people as we can to provide hope and healing for our planet right now. And so it's like, okay, there's this much to do, but what's the next thing I can do? That's one of my pearls. What's one of your pearls from COVID?
So one of my pearls has been just like the break. I think I've realized, and I realized this the other day working out, like when I'm in that still moment, when I'm doing like gardening or working out, I kind of get like those little bliss bombs, like you call pearls. And the other day I was doing a really hard workout and like I really wanted to just stop and say, nope, I'm done and just walk away. But it's like, don't go to the extreme of just quitting, just take a break. So for me, it's been like take a break because I am always going to the next thing and the next thing. That's been the sign lately of like, take a break. It's okay to take a break. It's okay to just breathe for a little bit, even if there's something that's coming up. Take time for yourself. So that's my pearl.
I love that. Bliss bomb. Did I get it right? Did I spell it right? What is your
Yes.
bliss bomb? Okay, so this is how you can be interactive with us. What is your bliss bomb? What's some of your pearls or that's put you in your bliss through this COVID little c time? Hey, here's another one for me. And this is really big because I'm a fear state, and you talked about fear coming on the show a little bit, not fear being on the show, but earlier in the show you talked about the word fear, and for me it means false evidence appearing real. But what most people don't know about me is I'm a fear personality on the Enneagram, and I grew up with one of my first stepfather was very fearful and very much control and the doomsday. Always doomsday. And so false evidence appearing real. And how do we get through that? And so one of the ways I'm getting there is I say to myself, I ask myself this question: are you okay right in this moment? In this moment right now, I am fine. I don't have COVID to my knowledge. I can pay my bills. I've been able to have food. I don't know about my next moment or tomorrow, but I know right now in the present moment. That's one of the things that I try to say to myself a lot. Am I okay this one? I got that wisdom from somebody early on. What does that trigger for you when I say that? I can feel your wheels turning when I say that to you.
So for me, I like to shift things to gratitude. So almost like what you're doing, but when I'm fearful, what can I be grateful for in the moment? And then also I like to kind of dissect, like, where is this fear really coming from? Is it from a limiting belief? Is it something that I'm caring for? And that's how you start to kind of like peel back those layers, where our first response is usually like fear, nope, gone, throw it in that back closet. And we don't take the time to sit still. Like, we don't like being uncomfortable. So now I'm comfortable with being uncomfortable. So when there's a fear, I will break it down, like, where is this really coming from? And I will kind of see it as I make myself the observer of what I'm doing and not be so emotionally attached and triggered to what that fear is. And then that allows me to be more responsive instead of reactive.
Get comfortable being uncomfortable. I think that's definitely the COVID life right now.
Mm-hmm.
At some level, but there's also some peace into it if you could just kind of shift into it. Speaking of small changes, big shifts, we're celebrating you today. You've given us some good guidance, which provide hope and connection. So how can people connect with you and learn more about the work you're doing?
Yeah, you can find more information on my website, which is just villalobosvitality.com. You can also follow me on Instagram, which is villalobosvitality, and I also have a lot of guided meditations. That was my way of giving back to the community during COVID, is to do live guided meditations. And they're very quick because I know I want to be mindful of people's time. They're like, I don't have an hour to invest. So they're very quick, 30 minutes. That's also my YouTube, which is also Villalobos Vitality. So you can, there's free resources out there. And if you have any questions or you want to learn more about mindfulness, meditation, Reiki, please feel free to reach out.
Alex, something that you said earlier today was kind of mentioning about, I just lost my train of thought because I was thinking about so many other things that I wanted to share with what you were doing. So they can connect with you there. The resources. There's so many great resources that have come out of this. So many people have just said, you know what, take it, and there's tons of, I was listening to a couple TED Talks this week. Just there's so much good information. So if you're feeling stuck, move. Get on your little iPhone or whatever you have and start moving, throw on a podcast, throw on a TED Talk, throw on some music so that you could get motion is lotion. If you have any questions, by the way, we're getting ready to wrap up the show here in just a few minutes. So I'd encourage you to ask those now and just put them in the chat here. So Alex, I'd like to close the show with a couple things besides saying thank you. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for you showing up into your own magnificence. So first of all, I want to acknowledge you and say thank you.
Thank you. And, it takes a tribe. It's the same thing with you, how you were talking about your mentors and how they really poured to you and opened that soul up. Like, that's the same thing. I feel like it's full circle. Like, that's the exact same thing that you did for me. And so I think that there's always those people that are the game changers in your life, and you are one of them. So I'm so grateful for this. And now it's my turn to pay it forward and to find those that I can help that are, where I was 8 years ago, and be able to share that magic with them. And it's that never ending cycle of paying it forward and that ripple of kindness.
Well, if you're in a little bit of a funk right now and you're wondering what you can do, I would say, think about the people who have encouraged you, enriched your life, and jot them a note and tell them what they've meant to you. I wrote my second book, The E Factor: Engage, Energize, Enrich. And it talked about getting engaged in the journey. And in order to get engaged in the journey, you've got to kind of know your purpose and kind of what's your why. And then the next thing is you got to find out what's your path. How are you going to get there? And whether it's a path through whole person health or it's a path through meditation or movement, I don't know your path. For me, my path is always thinking about how do I move? How do I put the right fuel in my body? How am I around the right energy, the right people, the right stuff? And our friend Robin Stevens is a master at feng shui. And then I got my little life plant here because of Robin to encourage energy. You got life plant there too. Robin's been to your house as well. And then the next thing is how do you get grateful and how do you look at the tribe of people around you? So, and then once you get engaged in this journey, then you get energy. And you get energy, and energy's in everything. And then the next part is how do you enrich? And this is part of me paying it forward for Dr. John and Dr. Carol pouring into me at a young person's age, and then Dr. Yenny and Pat and just the many people that have poured into me. So I'm super grateful. My friends, my mentor Bill Reisler through the Hellsberg Mentoring Program, and Barnett Hellsberg, just phenomenal people. So just say thank you. Think of one person who's helped your journey and say thank you. So last two questions. Okay. If you had a magic wand, what would you do?
Ooh, magic wand. Well, I would get rid of all the fear that's going on right now and have people really focus on coming together using this. I feel like I said, in every lesson, there's magic. And I hope that we use this to come together to realize that we're global citizens and to think and make decisions from a place from our heart and less of our brain. From a place of what if and love instead of fear. So that would be my magic wand, which sounds really corny to say world peace, but really it's about loving one another.
Yeah, I think it's about having peace in your own soul.
Yes.
When you have peace there, you have love there. When you have love there, you radiate that out to the world. What do you think your medicine is? What's your medicine God put in your heart or spirit put in your heart to share with the world?
My medicine was realizing that growing up, I felt alone and I felt like there wasn't anyone there for me. I felt different. And once I embraced that, then it gave me the medicine of being able to connect with anyone. Like I have the ability now to, work with CEOs and then also work with single moms or children. Like that's such a broad spectrum that it's because of my medicine and it's overcoming all of the different things that I had to go through. So now I'm so grateful for all of those trials and tribulations because through those things I found my gifts. So
it's funny you say that. About 20 plus years ago, we just celebrated our 19th year at our current location. So that's how I can timestamp it. I remember standing in my my second office over at Kings Cove. I remember standing there one day, and we had a different floor plan, but I was in our kind of our reception area, and then we had a CEO of a company, and we had a multimillionaire, we had a homeless person, and we had a transsexual, Hispanic and Black person, all in that room. I thought, okay, and we're in the middle of Johnson County. This is the way it should be. We're all humans having this human experience, and you've given us a great experience today. Thank you for sharing that with us. Well, I like to end with a quote, and I didn't give you this warning today. Do you want to share a quote with the audience today?
Sure. My favorite quote is from Nelson Mandela, which is, "I never lose. I either win or learn."
Woo! Say that again.
I never lose. I will either win or learn.
I will either win. I've never heard that quote. I love
Nelson
it.
Mandela, yeah.
I'll have to feature that in my thing. Okay, so here's my words of wisdom for you. It'll be the quote I share today, and I would encourage you to think about this. You know, we are well into COVID. Okay, we started about mid-March, mid-April, mid-May, mid-June, mid-July. We're heading towards mid-August. We're 5 months in. I do think we're about the halfway point. So don't shoot the messenger. That's what my spirit tells me. We probably got another 4, 5, 6 months of this. So, hey, I don't want you to think about 5 months from now, I wish I would have said, you know what, I'm going to focus on my self-care. I've got more time. I'm going to start, if you can't go to the gym, you know, I know that our friend Haley had a boot camp outside this morning, really early. I was not there, by the way, but you could you do some sit-ups? Could you do some jumping jacks? Could you do some squats? Could you do some air angels? Could you march in place? It's absolutely gorgeous right now. We've got some pretty good weather in Kansas City. Could you go for a walk, or wherever you're at, could you go for a walk? So here's my quote for you today. 1 year from now, you'll wish you started today. Try not to let another day pass, because all of a sudden you're going to wake up and 20,000 days have passed. And that's where I'm heading. And I remember listening to that book on audio about 15 years ago. And here I'm like, holy moly, how did that happen? So thanks for sharing with me today. Go out and make it a great day. Hey, I love the love, and I'm going to give my friend, hey, Susie, I love you. Thanks for sharing. She's sending you some love, Alex. Give BB a big old birthday hug. I know we had a birthday this week, and Susan works with me at Your Wellness Connection. Susan, speaking of anniversaries, we have an anniversary coming up. September 5th, it'll be 19 years that we've got a chance to serve together. How lucky am I?
That's amazing. And I'm so excited to be part of that family coming up soon. So
yeah,
we'll celebrate together.
Yeah, Alex is joining us September 1st at Your Wellness Connection. So you can find her there. You can find her on our website soon as well. Once again, thanks for joining us. For all of you joining us today or tuning in later, hey, share this with some friends. Make a difference. If you don't want to share with friends, fine. Share it with yourself. Take it into your soul. Take action. I don't want you wasting this time when you look at a year from now saying, you know what, I took some action. Maybe you learned to cook. Not my cup of tea this time, but maybe next COVID experience, we'll see. All right. Blessings to all of you. We'll chat soon.
I sure appreciate you listening to Small Changes, Big Shifts. If you go to the website, smallchangesbigshifts.com, we'll have the show notes ready for you there. If this episode inspired you to make a small change that will lead to a big shift, please share with a friend. You can catch our episode on Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and our website. And if you feel like it, please leave a rating or a comment. Be sure to subscribe so you can catch our episode next week. Blessings to you.